In the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, Hammurabi forged his legal code, and the Epic of Gilgamesh etched itself into history as the oldest story known to man, predating both the Iliad and the Bible by over 1,000 years. It's under this arid climate that Western civilization has its roots, giving rise to a generation of culture and customs that inspire admiration and awe to this day. Mesopotamia was the fertile crescent that birthed civilizations such as Sumer, Babylon, and Assyria, whose art and literature continue to be unearthed. However, the real legacy of this land goes beyond archaeology. The Mesopotamian sexagesimal system of reckoning remains alive and well in modern science. From the familiar 360-degree circle to the clocks that dictate our daily lives, where the hour is conveniently divided into 60 minutes of 60 seconds each, this ancient system has left an indelible mark on our modern world. As with any literary masterpiece, the Epic of Gilgamesh holds profound insight into the human condition. More than merely recounting ancient history, it projects our own deepest, sometimes darkest, emotions onto its characters. The story echoes a timeless fear of mortality, an eternal search for love and knowledge, and an eternal recognition of human vulnerability. It lends voice to emotions that continue to resonate powerfully today, cementing its status as an enduring personal testimonial of human nature. Translated into dozens of languages, the epic's message has captivated and moved countless readers across the ages, and its wisdom remains as profound and poignant as the day it was written. The Epic of Gilgamesh is a story of an exceptional friendship between two men that dates back to the 3rd millennium BC, making it the oldest epic narrative in the world. The tale was a popular story for over a millennium throughout the ancient Near East, and copies of it have been found in numerous regions, with fragments in different languages, including Akkadian, Assyrian, Hittite, and Hurrian. Fragments of this bestseller is found in many regions, from Hattusa to Megiddo, passing through Emar, Sultantip, Ugarit, Ashur, Nimrud, Uar, Uruk, Sippar, and even Iskali, east of the Tigris River. As time passed, a standard version of the epic was created called the Ninevite version, which was found in the library of the Assyrian king, Assurbanipal, in Nineveh, in its most complete form. This version is better preserved, and more well-known than the earlier Babylonian version. The great popularity of the epic made it a classic text, used regularly in schools by scribes as an exercise, or even as an educational text, to introduce young members of privileged classes to the great themes of human condition, life, death, and sexuality. The Epic of Gilgamesh, beyond being an adventure narrative, is a profound reflection on the human condition. It asks us to consider what the differences are between man and God, immortality versus mortality, as well as between man and animal, sexual expression for more than just reproduction, and building relationships based on friendship and love. Gilgamesh's story takes us through these concepts in vivid detail, helping us to understand better our existence here on Earth. Come, let us immerse ourselves in the wonders of this ancient epic, and allow its timeless message to echo through our hearts and minds. In our next session, we shall gather once more to delve deeper into the nuances and themes of this best-selling classic. The Epic of Gilgamesh. Surpassing all kings. Powerful and tall. Beyond all others. Violent, splendid, a wild bull of a man. Unvanquished leader. Hero in the front lines. Beloved by his soldiers, fortress they called him. Protector of the people. Raging flood that destroys all defenses. 2/3 divine and 1/3 human. Son of King Lugobanda, who became a god, and of the goddess Ni's son. He opened the mountain passes, dug wells on the slopes, crossed the vast ocean, sailed to the rising sun, journeyed to the edge of the world, in search of eternal life. And once he found Utnapishtim, the man who survived the great flood and was made immortal. He brought back the ancient forgotten rites, restoring the temples that the flood had destroyed, renewing the statutes and sacraments for the welfare of the people and the sacred land. Who is like Gilgamesh? What other king has inspired such awe? Who else can say, I alone rule, supreme among mankind? The goddess Ururu. mother of creation, had designed his body, had made him the strongest of men, huge, handsome, radiant, perfect. This city is his possession. He struts through it, arrogant, his head raised high, trampling its citizens like a wild bull. He is king. He does whatever he wants. Takes the son from his father and crushes him. Takes the girl from her mother and uses her. The warrior's daughter, the young man's bride. He uses her. No one dares to oppose him. But the people of Uruk cried out to heaven, and their lamentation was heard. The gods are not unfeeling. Their hearts were touched. They went to Anu, father of them all, protector of the realm of sacred Uruk, and spoke to him on the people's behalf. Heavenly Father, Gilgamesh, noble as he is, splendid as he is, has exceeded all bounds. The people suffer from his tyranny. The people cry out that he takes the son from his father and crushes him. Takes the girl from her mother and uses her. The warrior's daughter, the young man's bride. He uses her. No one dares to oppose him. Is this how you want your king to rule? Should a shepherd savage his own flock? Father, do something, quickly, before the people overwhelm heaven with their heartrending cries. Anu heard them, he nodded his head, then to the goddess, mother of creation, he called out, Aruru, you are the one who created humans. Now go and create a double for Gilgamesh, his second self, a man who equals his strength and courage, a man who equals his stormy heart. Create a new hero, let them balance each other perfectly, so that Uruk has peace. When Arura heard this, she closed her eyes, and what Anu had commanded she formed in her mind. She moistened her hands, she pinched off some clay, she threw it into the wilderness, kneaded it, shaped it to her idea, and fashioned a man, a warrior, a hero, Enkidu the brave, as powerful and fierce as the war god Ninurta. Hair covered his body, hair grew thick on his head and hung down to his waist, like a woman's hair. He roamed all over the wilderness, naked, far from the cities of men, ate grass with gazelles, and when he was thirsty he drank clear water from the waterholes, kneeling beside the antelope and deer. One day, a human, a trapper, saw him drinking with the animals at a waterhole. The trapper's heart pounded, his face went white, his legs shook, he was numb with terror. The same thing happened a third day. Fear gripped his belly, he looked drained and haggard like someone who has been on a long, hard journey. He went to his father. Father, I have seen a savage man at the waterhole. He must be the strongest man in the world, with muscles like rock. I have seen him outrun the swiftest animals. He lives among them, eats grass with gazelles, and when he is thirsty he drinks clear water from the waterholes. I haven't approached him, I am too afraid. He fills in the pits I have dug, he tears out the traps I have set, he frees the animals, and I can catch nothing. My livelihood is gone. Son, in Uruk there lives a man named Gilgamesh. He is king of that city and the strongest man in the world, they say, with muscles like rock. Go now to Uruk, go to Gilgamesh, tell him what happened, then follow his advice. He will know what to do. He made the journey, he stood before Gilgamesh in the center of Uruk, he told him about the savage man. The king said, Go to the temple of Ishtar, ask them there for a woman named Shamhat, one of the priestesses who give their bodies to any man, in honor of the goddess. Take her into the wilderness. When the animals are drinking at the waterhole, tell her to strip off her robe and lie there naked ready, with her legs apart. The wild man will approach. Let her use her love arts. Nature will take its course, and then the animals who knew him in the wilderness will be bewildered, and will leave him forever. The trapper found Shamhat, Ishtar's priestess, and they went off into the wilderness. For 3 days they walked. On the third day they reached the waterhole. There they waited. For 2 days they sat as the animals came to drink clear water. Early in the morning of the third day, Enkidu came and knelt down to drink clear water with the antelope and deer. They looked in amazement. The man was huge and beautiful. Deep in Shamhat's loins desire stirred. Her breath quickened as she stared at this primordial being. Look! the trapper said. There he is. Now use your love arts. Strip off your robe and lie here naked, with your legs apart. Stir up his lust when he approaches, touch him, excite him, take his breath with your kisses, show him what a woman is. The animals who knew him in the wilderness will be bewildered, and will leave him forever. She stripped off her robe and lay there naked, with her legs apart, touching herself. Enkidu saw her and warily approached. He sniffed the air. He gazed at her body. He drew close. Shamhat touched him on the thigh, touched his penis, and put him inside her. She used her love arts. She took his breath with her kisses, held nothing back, and showed him what a woman is. For 7 days he stayed erect and made love with her, until he had had enough. At last he stood up and walked toward the waterhole to rejoin his animals. But the gazelles saw him and scattered. The antelope and deer bounded away. He tried to catch up, but his body was exhausted, his life force was spent, his knees trembled, he could no longer run like an animal, as he had before. He turned back to Shamhat, and as he walked he knew that his mind had somehow grown larger. He knew things now that an animal can know. Enkidu sat down at Shamhat's feet. He looked at her, and he understood all the words she was speaking to him. Now, Enkidu, you know what it is to be with a woman, to unite with her. You are beautiful, you are like a god. Why should you roam the wilderness and live like an animal? Let me take you to Great Walled Uruk, to the temple of Ishtar, to the palace of Gilgamesh the mighty king, who in his arrogance oppresses the people, trampling upon them like a wild bull. She finished, and Enkidu nodded his head. Deep in his heart he felt something stir, a longing he had never known before, the longing for a true friend. Enkidu said, I will go, Shamhat. Take me with you to Great Walled Uruk, to the temple of Ishtar, to the palace of Gilgamesh the mighty king. I will challenge him. I will shout to his face, I am the mightiest. I am the man who can make the world tremble. I am supreme. Come, said Shamhat. Let us go to Uruk. I will lead you to Gilgamesh the mighty king. You will see the great city with its massive wall. You will see the young men dressed in their splendor, in the finest linen and embroidered wool, brilliantly colored, with fringed shawls and wide belts. Every day is a festival in Uruk, with people singing and dancing in the streets, musicians playing their lyres and drums, the lovely priestesses standing before the temple of Ishtar, chatting and laughing, flushed with sexual joy, and ready to serve men's pleasure, in honor of the goddess, so that even old men are aroused from their beds. You who are still so ignorant of life, I will show you Gilgamesh the mighty king, the hero destined for both joy and grief. You will stand before him and gaze with wonder. You will see how handsome, how virile he is, how his body pulses with erotic power. He is even taller and stronger than you, so full of life force that he needs no sleep. Enkidu, put aside your aggression. Shamash, the sun god, loves him, and his mind has been made large by Anu, father of the gods, made large by Enlil, the god of earth, and by Ea, the god of water and wisdom. Even before you came down from the hills, you had come to Gilgamesh in a dream. And she told Enkidu what she had heard. He went to his mother, the goddess Nisan, and asked her to interpret the dream. I saw a bright star. It shot across the morning sky. It fell at my feet and lay before me like a huge boulder. I tried to lift it, but it was too heavy. I tried to move it, but it would not budge. A crowd of people gathered around me. The people of Uruk pressed in to see it. Like a little baby they kissed its feet. This boulder, this star that had fallen to earth, I took it in my arms, I embraced and caressed it the way a man caresses his wife. Then I took it and laid it before you. You told me that it was my double, my second self. The mother of Gilgamesh, Lady Nisan, the wise, the all-knowing, said to her son, Dearest child, this bright star from heaven, this huge boulder that you could not lift, it stands for a dear friend, a mighty hero. You will take him in your arms, embrace and caress him the way a man caresses his wife. He will be your double, your second self, a man who is loyal, who will stand at your side through the greatest dangers. Soon you will meet him, the companion of your heart. Your dream has said so. Gilgamesh said, May the dream come true. May the true friend appear, the true companion, who through every danger will stand at my side. When Shamhat had finished speaking, Enkidu turned to her, and again they made love. Then Shamhat gave Enkidu one of her robes, and he put it on. Taking his hand, she led him like a child to some shepherds' huts. Marveling, the shepherds crowded around him. "What an enormous man!" they whispered. "How much like Gilgamesh he is, tall and strong, with muscles like rock." They led him to their table, they put bread and beer in front of him. Enkidu sat and stared. He had never seen human food, he didn't know what to do. Then Shamhat said, "Go ahead, Enkidu. This is food, we humans eat and drink this." Warily he tasted the bread. Then he ate a piece, he ate a whole loaf, then ate another, he ate until he was full, drank 7 pitchers of the beer, his heart grew light, his face glowed, and he sang out with joy. He had his hair cut, he washed, he rubbed sweet oil into his skin, and became fully human. Shining, he looked handsome as a bridegroom. When the shepherds lay down, Enkidu went out with sword and spear. He chased off lions and wolves. All night he guarded the flocks, he stayed awake and guarded them while the shepherds slept. One day, while he was making love, he looked up and saw a young man pass by. "Shamhat," he said, "bring that man here. I want to talk to him." "Where is he going?" she called out, then went to the man and said, "Where are you going in such a rush?" The man said to Enkidu, "I am on my way to a wedding banquet. I have piled the table with exquisite food for the ceremony. The priest will bless the young couple, the guests will rejoice, the bridegroom will step aside, and the virgin will wait in the marriage bed for Gilgamesh, king of great walled Uruk. It is he who mates first with the lawful wife. After he is done, the bridegroom follows. This is the order that the gods have decreed. From the moment the king's birth cord was cut, every girl's hymen has belonged to him." As he listened, Enkidu's face went pale with anger. "I will go to Uruk now, to the palace of Gilgamesh the mighty king. I will challenge him. I will shout to his face, 'I am the mightiest. I am the man who can make the world tremble. I am supreme.'" Together they went to great walled Uruk, Enkidu in front, Shamhat behind him. When he walked into the main street of Uruk, the people gathered around him, marveling. The crowds kept pressing closer to see him. Like a little baby they kissed his feet. "What an enormous man!" they whispered. "How much like Gilgamesh, not quite so tall but stronger boned. In the wilderness he grew up eating grass with gazelles, he was nursed on the milk of antelope and deer. Gilgamesh truly has met his match. This wild man can rival the mightiest of kings." The wedding ritual had taken place, the musicians were playing their drums and lyres, the guests were eating, singing and laughing, the bride was ready for Gilgamesh as though for a god, she was waiting in her bed to open to him, in honor of Ishtar, to forget her husband and open to the king. When Gilgamesh reached the marriage house, Enkidu was there. He stood like a boulder, blocking the door. Gilgamesh, raging, stepped up and seized him. Huge arms gripped huge arms, foreheads crashed like wild bulls. The two men staggered, they pitched against houses, the doorposts trembled, the outer walls shook, they careened through the streets, they grappled each other, limbs intertwined, each huge body straining to break free from the other's embrace. Finally, Gilgamesh threw the wild man and with his right knee pinned him to the ground. His anger left him. He turned away. The contest was over. Enkidu said, "Gilgamesh, you are unique among humans. Your mother, the goddess Sun, made you stronger and braver than any mortal, and rightly has Enlil granted you the kingship, since you are destined to rule over men." They embraced and kissed. They held hands like brothers. They walked side by side. They became true friends. In the interest of time, I will directly dive into the heart of the matter. Gilgamesh's heart-wrenching eulogy for his closest friend and comrade, Enkidu. When he heard the death rattle, Gilgamesh moaned like a dove. His face grew dark. "Beloved, wait, don't leave me. Dearest of men. Don't die. Don't let them take you from me." All through the long night, Gilgamesh wept for his dead friend. At the first glow of dawn, he cried out, Enkidu. Dearest brother. You came to Uruk from the wilderness. Your mother was a gazelle. Your father a wild ass. You were raised on the milk of antelope and deer. And the wandering herds taught you where the best pastures were. May the paths that led you to the cedar forest mourn you constantly, day and night. May the elders of great walled Uruk mourn you, who gave us their blessing when we departed. May the hills mourn you and the mountains we climbed. May the pastures mourn you as their own son. May the forest we slashed in our fury mourn you. May the bear mourn you, the hyena, the panther, the leopard, deer, jackal, lion, wild bull, gazelle. May the rivers Elijah and Euphrates mourn you, whose sacred waters we offered to the gods. May the young men of great walled Uruk mourn you, who cheered when we slaughtered the bull of heaven. May the farmer mourn you, who praised you to the skies in his harvest song. May the shepherd mourn you, who brought you milk. May the brewer mourn you, who made you fine beer. May Ishtar's priestess mourn you, who massaged you with sweet-smelling oil. May the wedding guests mourn you like their own brother. May the temple priests mourn you, loosening their hair. Hear me, elders, hear me, young men. My beloved friend is dead, he is dead. My beloved brother is dead. I will mourn as long as I breathe. I will sob for him like a woman who has lost her only child. O Enkidu, you were the axe at my side in which my arm trusted, the knife in my sheath, the shield I carried, my glorious robe, the wide belt around my loins, and now a harsh fate has torn you from me, forever. Beloved friend, swift stallion, wild deer, leopard ranging in the wilderness, Enkidu, my friend, swift stallion, wild deer, leopard ranging in the wilderness, together we crossed the mountains, together we slaughtered the bull of heaven, we killed Humaba, who guarded the cedar forest. O Enkidu, what is this sleep that has seized you, that has darkened your face and stopped your breath? But Enkidu did not answer. Gilgamesh touched his heart, but it did not beat. Then he veiled Enkidu's face like a bride's. Like an eagle, Gilgamesh circled around him, he paced in front of him, back and forth, like a lioness whose cubs are trapped in a pit. He tore out clumps of his hair, tore off his magnificent robes as though they were cursed. Gilgamesh and Enkidu. Jonathan and David. Two sets of literary works that from a methodological perspective seem challenging to compare, due to their differences in production medium and time. However, the comparison can be justified on several levels. Firstly, both texts share a common root in Semitic mentality and the world of the ancient Near East. Mesopotamia, a cultural and intellectual center for 3 millennia before the Christian era, had a significant influence on all the peoples of the Near East, including Israel and Judah. Additionally, both kingdoms received constant influence from the great empires of Mesopotamia and Egypt. As a result, when the books of Samuel were written, it is likely that the Epic of Gilgamesh was known and read in the royal court. The books of Samuel were written when the kingdom of Judah was under Assyrian domination. Secondly, both texts convey the story of a deep friendship and share numerous motifs and expressions. In the next video, we will delve deeper into the comparison of Gilgamesh and Enkidu, Jonathan and David.